everybody. Welcome to Promo Insiders, the ASI Media podcast that covers the issues that matter most to the promotional products industry. I'm Teresa Hagel, and today I'm joined by my colleague Chris Ruvo, who has been reporting on the epic corporate saga involving top 40 supplier Gildan for months now. It's been like a bitter months-long battle for control of this publicly traded apparel manufacturer, and it just came to kind of a dramatic conclusion. And that's exciting for me because I was missing Succession. I really love that show. And now I kind of got to see it play out again on the digital pages of ASI. Um, so were you a Succession fan, Chris?
No, I can't say I was, but so when I started writing about, not because I wouldn't like it, I just didn't watch it. And but as I started writing about this, so many people started saying, "Oh my gosh, this is like even wilder than that." But it's real, you
I
know.
know. I
Yeah.
know because I watched that show. I loved it. But I'm like, oh, is this? I mean, like I know a lot of it was kind of pulled from real things, but like this
Mhm.
is over the top. But then the Gildan thing happened, and no, I guess it's not over the top.
Yeah, you're like, wow, this actually does occur. Yeah.
So, bird's eye view. What is like the
Mhm.
Cliff's Note version of what has happened over, I guess has it been like 6 months now?
Yeah, but it's been almost half a year. So the very quick top line version is back in December, a previous incarnation of the Gildan board fired then CEO and company co-founder Glenn Chamandy, who had basically built the company up, spearheaded its growth from a small business to an internationally traded, vertically integrated apparel manufacturer. That touched off this proxy fight with activist investors trying to get Chamandy reinstated. And just within the past couple of days, we're recording this on May 29th, 2024. Just past couple of days, they were successful. Glenn is now CEO again. There's a board that's completely constituted of the activist investors, candidates, and they have control of Gildan.
So, I mean, it is kind of funny to me that this is all sort of over a company that makes t-shirts, but
Yes, yeah,
like how it's t-shirts. How can it be that big? But I
right.
guess any company that's that big, it can
It
get convoluted.
that's it. It's t-shirts, but it's like multi-billion dollars worth of t-shirts every year, and they're publicly traded. So they have to generate value for shareholders and to keep their stock price where they want it and to keep it growing, they have to be demonstrating growth and value,
Yeah,
etc. And
yeah,
that's where this comes money. That's what it
yeah.
comes
It's
down
always
to.
the
It's
money.
money. Yeah.
Follow that money.
Yeah.
So let's go back to the kind of the beginning of the corporate fight. What initially caused this, and what was going on at the beginning part?
Yeah, so like as I referenced, they fired Glenn. The board fired Glenn. They said that he had become an ineffective, disengaged leader who didn't really have great ideas on how to grow Gildan organically, and that he was proposing risky acquisitions that the board didn't want to engage in. He completely denied all that. He said that's a complete inaccurate telling of what the situation was.
Yeah.
He's still
Well, and
very.
weren't there were like competing press releases for it. Like he was releasing his statements, they were releasing their statements. It was like this he said, they said thing over these warring press
Yes,
releases.
that's another thing that made this interesting, at least certainly from our perspective, is that this all played out so very publicly. Actually, the I can still remember very vividly the morning in December that I saw an SEC filing that he was gone, and I was like, oh my gosh! And then like within like hours, there was a statement out, excuse me, from him countering everything that the board had accused him of. And the board initially was trying to play nice, where they're like, "Oh, we thank Glenn for his time, have a good one, bud," And he was like, "Wait a minute, this I did not leave I did not leave on my own accord. They forced me out." And they're trying to take over the company that I built and blah blah. So it was just a very wild start. And to your point, every time the one side would say something in a press release or a filing of some kind, there would be a counter argument to it. So just going back to your question, after that, after they fired Glenn, Glenn comes out with that statement saying he wants back in. There's activist investors. That's basically entities or people who are invested in Gildan who don't like what the company is doing and want the change. So what the big one in there was Browning West. They are a Los Angeles-based investment firm. They have upwards of 6% now of Gildan's stock, and they started spearheading this charge to overhaul the board of directors and to have Glenn reinstated as CEO. That started within days, weeks, call it, of the firing, and it just played out with many
Yeah.
permutations
Yeah.
over the next few
Yeah.
months.
Well, so what were some of the bigger twists and turns that happened over these last few months?
Oh man, so many. It was crazy. So one of the biggest ones was that at one point, the board was apparently considering selling Gildan, and that private equity firms that are currently invested in other top 40 promo companies, including I don't want to misspeak, the firm that owns S&S Activewear. Which, could you imagine if
Okay.
the firm that owned S&S Activewear also bought Gildan?
Yeah. That
They
would be a
were
big shakeup. Yeah.
Right, right. So that was reportedly one of the entities interested. There was another firm that owns Staples Promotion Products, Sycamore Partners, they're called. They were reportedly interested too. So that was like a wild, turn that, oh my gosh, like amid all this corporate fighting, like this massive mill might be sold. There was lawsuits that went back and forth. Gildan, in an instance, alleged that there was at one point Browning West and the Glenn camp was trying to have a special meeting held, where there could be a vote to put in a new board
Yeah.
of directors. But to even request such a thing without getting too technical, you have to have a certain standing and a certain amount of shares. And Gildan alleged that they didn't. So
Okay.
that was one lawsuit. There's then Browning West had a legal filing that said, we don't trust the board to hold a proper meeting where shareholders can vote, openly and honestly about who they want on the board. So there was legal filings going back and forth that definitely complicated things. I'll give you a couple other ones because it could go on forever. It
Yeah.
feels like,
Yeah.
but another one. So the board members that fired Glenn back in December, they five of those resigned on May 1st of this year. They then appointed new board members who were basically loyal to their cause, you would say. They wanted to keep the new CEO
Hmm.
president who was appointed, Vince Tyra, and they wanted to kind of stick on the track they were on. But then those board members, along with the rest of the board, resigned en masse last week, and appointed all the Browning West backed board of directors, and those are the people, of course, who are
Oh,
loyal to Glenn. So it was like you had these multiple resignations of boards, and then this like shocking capitulation by the one side. They're
yeah.
saying like, we think we're going to lose. The shareholders are going to support this the Glenn and Browning West, and fair play.
So, in a way, like it's almost like you've been on this, like not exclusive because obviously you're a very prolific writer, but you've
Sure.
been on like the Gildan beat the last few months. Like,
Yeah.
what how many stories do you think you actually wrote about this a whole saga?
Oh, that's a great question. I haven't thought about. I would say upwards of a couple dozen, maybe.
Yeah. Because
Like
I mean,
like
I think there were even some like developments where you're like, well, this is not worth writing. Like you could have written even more because there was so much
yes.
going on, but you had to kind of, nobody wants to hear about it that much, I guess. But
Yeah,
but it was still
correct.
there was so much stuff. It's like, okay, we don't want to write about this anymore, but we kind of have to because this is another like wild, crazy thing that's happening. So
Yeah, totally. There's always something like big and new that seemed to be coming, and we tried to be like judicious with it, but a lot of times it just did feel valid to report on it. The big paper up in Canada, the Globe and the Mail, they were like they were definitely like at the forefront of a lot of
yeah,
this coverage. Like they were writing about it constantly and had some exclusives and stuff like that. So I have to give them credit. They were great, but we were there too, doing our best to keep the industry informed
yeah,
of just how
yeah.
things were playing out from a promo perspective.
Yeah, yeah. So now it's basically over, right? Like how did this I think we've talked about it a little bit, but like what is the ending? How did this conclude?
Yeah. So that the board that had been loyal to the new CEO Vince Tyra resigned, as I mentioned a second ago, late last week. So late the week of heading into Memorial Day weekend, and they appointed the new board. That new board still had to officially be elected or voted in, if you will, by the Gildan shareholders at their annual meeting. That annual meeting occurred Tuesday, May 28th, and the board received overwhelming that new board loyal to Glenn received overwhelming support. Um, Glenn had already been reappointed as CEO at that point,
Mhm.
CEO and president and a board member, but that board being officially put into place they're loyal to him. He's cemented now in place as CEO
Yeah.
president.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now hopefully all the drama is over and they can kind of get back to regular business. Um, what are their plans for the future? What is, under Glenn Chamandy again, like what are they going to do? What is the new
Yeah.
thing for Gildan?
Well, the big thing, one thing they're going to have to do is figure out a way to make up for what was reportedly about $65 million spent on this proxy fight. So that's kind of wild to think about that a
Yeah,
lot
for
that
sure.
amount of money was going over this. But anyway, but they do have what they've called a five-pillared plan that they believe will propel Gildan's stock price from its current levels, which is under $40. It's been hovering between mid 30s and upper 30s for a while now, to about $100 per share within like 5 years, I think they said. And part of the ways that they want to do that is they want to streamline and make more cost effective their supply chain. And one way they want to do that is outsource some basics production, or not outsource. They it's not outsourcing. They own the facility. It's in Bangladesh, and they want to move certain types of production there, and they want to increase their market share in like fleece categories and things like that. And they have detailed plans for that. There's also they want to take on some debt to which may sound crazy, but they want to take on the debt to basically fuel various initiatives that they think are in the long term are going to really pay off for shareholders. So that's some of what they're looking to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's really been an interesting story, even for people that don't, care about corporate battles.
Yeah.
It had kind of like the succession thing. It had all the drama. It had so much kind of going on. So it was very interesting to be kind of a bystander in this. Um, but I think that's all the questions I have for you. Is there anything else that you want to add about Gildan or um
Yeah,
t-shirts?
no, I think your sum up there was great. That it's just like I think whether you care about like publicly traded companies apparel or not, it was just wild to see such a such a prominent company. I mean, this is a huge company, global footprint. To see a really just virulent fight play out in the public sphere, and to kind of see, regardless of which camp you were sympathetic to, just to see the guy who was ousted come back. It's a story. It's a story arc that would make a good mini series or
Yeah,
Netflix drama. So
yeah.
it was
Succession
interesting
2.
from that perspective. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much, Chris. Once again for ASI Media, I'm Teresa Hegel.